Hey folks, it's Matt once again. And yeah, if you're wondering, this is a German soccer shirt that was sent to me a long time ago by someone. And I know like the big thing is the soccer, or football, and Germany won. And I'm like, okay, I never watched soccer, but someone mentioned it, so I figured, yeah, I'll wear it, represent. But figured I'd do a couple reviews today. You won't see them all on the same day, but um, today, as you're watching, you probably saw another review I did a few days ago. I didn't upload it till today, but a few days ago, called The Fan. Now, it was a 1981 Michael Biehn film that I didn't really care for. I thought it was boring. I thought it had Michael Bihn's sort of weakest performance. I'm not a big Lauren Bacall fan. James Garner. When I did that review, I didn't know he passed away. So rest in peace, James Garner. Now I get to a film that I thought dealt with the sort of a guy being obsessed and turning violent in a much better movie, in a much better way. It was a film that came out a year before The Fan, is Fade to Black. Now, I had seen this film once before, and I have a DVD-Rs, one of the DVD-Rs mini that my friend Mike, OCP, sent me. And good luck finding an actual DVD of this. This is one that I think Screen Factory and or whoever. And in case someone wondering, yeah, I do know that The First Power from Scorpion Release is coming out on Blu-ray with interviews with Lou Diamond Phillips and Jeff Kober, so I look forward to that. That's definitely a pickup for me. But anyway, The Fade to Black, it's a film directed by Vernon Zimmerman, which unfortunately this is the last film he directed. He directed a little short film in 1995, but actual feature film, this is the last film he directed, which is sad. That from 1980 to today, he didn't get another directing job, because I thought he did a really good job with this film. Uh, After this, he wrote a film called Teen Witch, and then pretty much the writing jobs were done after that. But that's too bad, because I thought he did a really good job. Now, Fade to Black, what it's about, it stars Dennis Christopher. He had done a film called Breaking Away, which got a lot of critical buzz, and I think some Oscar nominations, and some of this. Dennis Christopher, I like him. I mean, Circuitry Man 1 and 2 isn't his most shining hour, but I've liked him in stuff like Stephen King's It. I like him in that film, and I think he does a really good job in this film. He plays a character named Eric, and what's great about this film, I'm sure at the time it was sort of marketed as a slasher film, and I guess in a way you could kind of say that's what it is, but it's a really interesting idea. Dennis Christopher is a guy, and this is, again, 1980. He's a big fan of movies. He's a huge fanatic of movies, especially older films like of Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney, Marilyn Monroe. He works at this sort of a place where, like, film distributor place. Some co-workers give him shit, and actually one of the co-workers is Mickey Rourke himself in a supporting role. But he has this belligerent aunt, and who always gives him shit. And in a way, you kind of feel sorry for this guy. For him, he never knew his mom and dad, and a lot of times he spends his time. He has a film projector in his room. He's watching these old black and white movies, or he goes to the movie theaters a lot. So definitely an obsessed guy of movies. And even this belligerent aunt's blaming him for being in this wheelchair, and he's like, well, I was only 4 years old, and this and that, and the aunt still gives him shit. His boss is really rude to him at work. Uh, his co-workers give him shit like Victor Ward. They even make a bet on Casablanca, and Dennis Christopher is like, okay, you have 2 days. What is Rick's full name in Casablanca? So I like this idea. I mean, this was a 1980 film and dealt with this idea of a guy who's really obsessed with movies. And of course, this time, older movies. And Tim Thomerson is also in this as a criminal psychiatrist. So it's like, cool, you got Dennis Christopher, Tim Thomerson has a role, Mickey Rourke has an early role. And one day he sees this Australian girl who is a spitting image of Marilyn Monroe. And this girl is actually really nice. I thought the actress did a good job. She's not a stuck-up bitch. She was actually a pretty nice girl. And the actress's name is Linda Kerridge, I believe. And she's a model trying to break in, but she actually treats Dennis Christopher's character of Eric nice. And says, hey, treats him nice, treats him like a person. Says, hey, let's go out for a date. And not because she was malicious, but she honestly forgot. And even when she remembers, she's like, oh my god, she rushes because Dennis Christopher wanted to take her to a movie. And she honestly forgot, and she honestly, like, oh my god, when she remembers, well, I was supposed to meet this guy. And again, this is like, they only met one time, and she actually rushes off to the theater and looks around, and you can tell she's really upset, and she's mad at herself. So it wasn't like she was a malicious, mean, stuck-up bitch. I mean, I like that, they didn't do that, because it would have been easy to be, oh, she's just a stuck-up bitch, and I like that, she was likable. She was not, of course, that's sort of a straw that breaks Dennis Christopher's back. And he thinks he was stood up. He leaves. Sees this woman who he doesn't realize at first is a hooker, and the hooker is really rude to him, and really treats him like shit. And she gets in a taxi, and then he of course he goes back home, and he's alone in his room watching a film. And of course his aunt giving him shit again. And at the time, he's watching a movie of an old woman being thrown down the stairs. So he takes her wheelchair, and she's being so belligerent, so rude, da 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 da, and he just snaps and throws her down the stairs. And by that time, he pretty much loses himself. And what he does is he mimics movies. I thought that's a really cool idea. Like, for example, the rude boss. He's got a bad heart. So he dresses up as the mummy. He actually has a makeup kit in his room and stuff. He dresses up as the mummy to scare the shit out of his boss, give him a heart attack. Mickey Rourke. Dennis Christopher dresses himself up as Hopalong Cassidy and actually has a draw and shoots him. Mickey Rourke. There's a scene where he's painting himself, and you see his face is normal. When he turns, you see that the other side of his face, he's painting himself to look like Dracula. And he actually dresses up as Dracula and goes to the movies and watches Night of the Living Dead. And he sees that hooker again that was giving him trouble. And it was almost like her death, she's one of the early ones, was almost accidental. Like he's trying to steer the shit out of her, and she trips and falls on like a fence, and I think like her neck or something was impaled. And he has this look on his face like, oh my god, I didn't mean to do that. But then like his mind is so far gone, he's Dracula, so he tries to suck her blood. And that's what I mean. I thought this was a really interesting idea. Really cool idea. This is producer he talks to, and the producer steals his idea for a movie. So he comes in, pretend to be James Cagney with a Tommy gun. So I thought it was a really good idea. I thought it was well directed. I thought Dennis Christopher did a really good job in his performance. Tim Thomerson's role, to be honest, I like Tim Thomerson. It's kind of one of the drawbacks because really his role is kind of pointless at the end of the day because he's this criminal psychiatrist and he has this relationship with this female cop, and how they find him, because by the end has this the model who stood him up, and she didn't do it on purpose. And how they find them is kind of like really, like it was kind of like up in the air of, oh, they got like in a police car, like, oh, someone saw a suspect, but I'm like, it was really convenient, and I'm like pretty lame, and like Tim Thompson didn't really have much to do. Like he's trying to talk to Eric, to Dennis Christopher, and he's not listening, and I'm like, okay, it's kind of like you could easily have cut that out. It really wouldn't have done much. But I like Tim Thomerson, but it's not like one of his. he it wasn't like it was Jack Death or Britt Bardo or any of those characters, or even his character in Uncommon Valor. Like, it was just sort of a forgettable character. So it's kind of like one of the little nitpicks I had with the film. But I like these odes to movies, and this guy was really obsessed with some films, even just to a point where he. I've been given spoilers, so if you don't want to hear the ending of the film, I'll just say that I really enjoyed the film because of Dennis Christopher's performance. I thought the rest of the cast, Tim Thomerson, he wasn't bad. Mickey Rourke, nice to see him in an early role. I thought it was a good story. It's not really a slasher movie, but I'm sure when they market it, they could say it's a slasher movie, and it even enlists a slasher film, so I guess technically you could call it, but it's more of a psychological film as well. And I thought it was a good story told, and it was a pretty original idea, especially around that time when you had a lot of slasher films. Definitely an original idea, in my opinion. And you felt bad for this character, and I'll get into the ending where he pretty much gets the girl, and they go up on top of the man's Chinese theater. And I like this idea that he does care for this girl, so he has her, and then he thinks about it, and he puts her in this door, and he locks the door, and she pretty much cares for him. She knows that he needs help, so she's even pounding like Eric, Eric. But he's not. I mean, he's done bad things. He has. But he's kind of a tragic type of character as well. I mean, he didn't try to throw her off or anything. He locks the door behind her so that she won't, get hurt or get shot. And of course, he thinks of James Cagney, top of the world, ma, and he gets shot and he falls to his death. And pretty much right when he falls to his death is when the end credits happen. So I mean, it's a little bit abrupt. A little bit abrupt, it seems, the ending. But at the same time, he dies, and of course that's the end of the movie. But usually, you have at least a few words about it. But because they shoot him, and he falls to his death. And it's at the end of the day, it was a movie that I thought was an interesting movie. I thought Dennis Christopher did a good job. His obsession with these older movies and what he does, and dressing up to pretend to be these characters. Thought there was a good psychological story. I thought the acting was fine. Was never really bored, and he did a really good Dennis Christopher performance. To me, this was how you do that without being boring, like Michael Bihn's The Fan. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good film. I thought it was a really good film, actually. And I think it's worth a lot. I guess the only way you'll probably see is probably if you can find it on YouTube or a stream site or something. But because the DVD is hard to come by, I'm fine with the DVD-R I have. I know there's a DVD with that and Hell Night, but that's really expensive as well. So good luck trying to get a copy. So again, your best bet is probably, if you want to watch it on a computer. But either way, Fade to Black is a film that I think doesn't deserve to be forgotten. I think Fade to Black is definitely a good one. That's just my opinion. But anyway, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you later for the next one.